Hey, pro life tip, take a thin jacket made of this kind of material. Take one of these, a little portable heater, and then you toast the jacket like it's a bagel. But make sure it's a kind of a cold day, and then you put it on, and it feels like the first time I touched a boob, a breast, when I was like 12 in the ocean, and this girl Doreen was holding me, and my elbow was smashed up against her. She was like 16, but she was very developed, and my elbow rubbed against her boob, and I just felt like, I just felt so held, and that's what this feels like. Anyway, let's get to your question. How do you build a relationship with yourself? How do you build a better relationship with yourself? So I think there's no right way, it's like eating a Reese's peanut butter cup. There's no right way to build a better relationship with yourself. Everyone has a different way to do it, For me, the first thing I did was I told myself, and this was the beginning of everything. I told myself I'm going to pull from my solid self instead of my pseudo self. And the solid versus pseudo is something I learned in therapy school. Marty Bowen talks about raising his differentiation of self. And he was a family systems guy. And in order to break up triangles with the family dynamic, to have your own sense of self, you had to raise your differentiation of self, right? You had to be your own person. And so I really resonated with that. And so he talks about pseudo versus solid. Your pseudo self is your false self, right? That's your approval seeking, exchanging who you are for love, for some kind of membership, to fit in. It's living outside in instead of inside out, which I was doing most of my life, right? And it doesn't mean that you're fake or phony. I think we can all, depending on what area of our life, feel that tug to be pseudo. And then your solid self is your authentic self. That's the part of you that is truly you. That's the part of you that we disconnect with as we grow up and as pressure, society, as we start to care what other people think, right? So when we're younger, usually we maneuver in our solid self until, we get bullied, until advertising kicks in, until we feel different and less than, right? Before we had to pay taxes, I don't know, maybe around, I don't know what it was for you, but around 10 to 12 for me, I was in my solid self. I was doing head spins, and I was part of a breakdancing crew, and I was rocking fat laces. It was the 80s, and I didn't care if people heard me listening to Madonna or Herbie Hancock. It was just me, and I remember feeling free and fearless and curious, and everyone around me telling me to calm the fuck down, relax, John, you're too much, you're too loud. And then because of that, as I grew up, I started to water myself down, right? And so at 35, when I started to rebuild my relationship with myself, I started to pull from my solid self. And, this is going to be the soft whisper, not the loud thundering voice, because we're not used to this, right? And it takes courage to do that. And so listening to the soft whisper that you're not used to listening to, that's hard, And so I started doing it really slowly. Start to ask myself what I need, what I want, who I am, how do I want to show up today, being okay with that, right? Standing on my truth. It's almost like you start to be on your team. You start to champion your own decisions. You start to root for yourself. Like, that's the beginning. And I got a few tattoos, and one of them well, I have many tattoos, but one says solid on my left side and pseudo on my right side as a reminder. All my tattoos, they're either reminders or bookmarks, and I got them so that I'm reminded that we all have a pseudo and solid side, and your pseudo side never goes away, right? You can't dissolve your pseudo side. And of course, I snap back like everyone else, right? Depending on who I'm around or what environment or what shows up in my life, there can be a strong pull to be pseudo. And then being aware of that, and then the practice of pulling from your solid self. And I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe it's raising your hand in the boardroom or telling your boyfriend how you want to be touched. I don't know, but it's the practice of that, right? Or maybe it's drawing boundaries, or giving yourself a donut, or a motorcycle ride, or I don't know, but the practice of pulling from your truth, right? Knowing your truth and then standing on it. It's the standing on it that's hard. But the practice of pulling from your truth and starting to live inside out instead of outside in, and that takes time, so be patient. That practice is what building a better relationship with yourself looks like.